Welcome to session 5 of Unit 3, Approaches to the Teaching of Controversial Issues. Quickly, let's look at the objectives. We have 3 objectives. 1. Identify at least 2 approaches to the teaching of controversial issues. 2. State at least 2 responsibilities of the teacher in the teaching of controversial issues. 3. Explain at least 2 important roles of controversial issues in social studies. Basically, there are 2 ways we can teach controversial issues. The first one is direct approach, where we can employ debates. We can engage in panel discussion, oral or written analysis. We conduct interviews or opinion surveys. We can dramatize the controversial issue, undertake case study or simulation or role play. These are direct ways of dealing with controversial issues. Then the second approach is the indirect approach. There are controversial issues that are so delicate that you cannot adopt the direct approach because it may lead to unpleasant situation. So one of the indirect approach is you can create an imaginary scenario where you employ inanimate objects. For instance, instead of talking about particular governance style, you can talk about it through writing, but in a way that it will be difficult for anybody to associate him or herself with the issue. There is a saying that who the cap fits, let them wear it. For example, the Animal Farm. Have you read the storybook The Animal Farm before? You see they use animals to depict or to portray a certain style of governance. They didn't mention anybody's name. They didn't mention any country. That is an indirect way of dealing with the issue of governance. Let's look at the responsibilities that the teacher is supposed to bear as far as teaching controversial issues are concerned. 1. The teacher has responsibility of possessing comprehensive knowledge about the issue and also make available the necessary resources for the students to engage in controversial issues. Apart from that, the teacher should also help students develop the habit of critical judgment and open-mindedness. They should look at issues from objective perspective, and also they must be able to assess or evaluate the sources of information and then determine their appropriateness or soundness. You don't just hear information from one source and you accept it as a fact. We have to help our guide learners to cross-check information from different sources before they accept it as a fact. Again, the teacher should make sure that both sides of the issues are presented fairly and impartially. Issues have both negative and positive sides. So we need to understand that and help learners look at the issues without bias. Another responsibility is that as a teacher, you don't have to begin a discussion then with your position outline. If you do that, it takes the wind out of sail of students because they see you as the knowledge reservoir. So once you have stated your opinion on it, meaning that they don't have anything to say again. And again, as a teacher, if you think issues are going to be very sensitive, sometimes you need a clearance from those who are, especially the parents. There are issues that are very delicate. You can't just talk about it. It may degenerate into a serious problem. So you need to be very careful. Those that you think you can seek the opinion or the views of parents first, then you have to do that. Then you have to be very versed in what? Various teaching techniques, asking questions, giving feedback, and all that. Then let's look at the importance of teaching controversial issues. Importance of teaching controversial issues. One, it helps learners to acquire the skills of recognizing, the skills of carrying out investigation and reacting to issues objectively as far as social studies is concerned. It enables students to acquire the skills. They are able to identify, investigate, do their own independent investigation. By so doing, they're able to do a major discussion as far as the issues are concerned objectively. Then also it helps students to develop the habit of making good judgment as far as their individual abilities will allow, because the students are able to get information from different sources based upon which they make judgments. They are able to do so without having to be biased as far as their judgment of issues are concerned. Then discussing controversial issues also enable learners to become well-informed citizens because they do reading, they collect information from different sources, they engage in observation, they listen to news and all that. So it enables them to become well-rounded citizens who are informed. Another importance of controversial issues is that students are able to acquire information from books, libraries, notes, able to make footnote indices and all that. And they're able to organize information that they have got from these sources in a systematic and what? Logical manner. Discussing controversial issues also help learners acquire the skills of effective group participation, which enable them assume different roles. Sometimes because they engage in discussion, they engage in debate, they learn skills of engaging in effective participation. They understand that when somebody is talking, another person has to listen. When your turn comes, then you also put your views across. It also helps them to synthesize applied information. They do comparison, they do contrasting of viewpoints, and by so doing, they are able to distinguish between the various types of information, whether it is factual or it is mere propaganda. Again, discussing controversial issues will enable students develop into free men with informed loyalty to democracy through the examination of evidence, facts, looking at different points of views, exercise of freedom of thought, and moral choices. Apart from all that we have mentioned, the discussion of controversial issues will also help learners apply the skills they have acquired in social studies to situations in their daily lives. The discussion in the classroom, it is not only for the purpose of discussing in classroom. They can also apply some of these skills in their daily activities. For example, in making decisions. In summary, we have discussed the two approaches to teaching controversial issues, and we have indicated that there are two approaches, direct and indirect, and how the two are applied. We also look at the values as far as controversial issues are concerned. Let's say the following self-assessment questions. One, identify two approaches to the teaching of controversial issues. Two, state two responsibilities of the teacher as far as teaching controversial issues are concerned. Then three, explain two important roles of the teacher in the teaching of controversial issues in social studies. Thank you.